Question: who's ready to roll up your sleeves and get down to the actual nitty gritty as to why some folks can't save? Back in a few. Hi, this is Jan from New York City, and my channel name is Jan from New York City Saves Money. I'd like to think at times I also help you save energy, time, sanity, you name it, I try. Listen, but today we're going to talk about saving cash, or rather, why some people could just never save cash. There are 9 definite reasons, and you might relate to some of them. Let's do it. All right, one is to refuse to live within your means. It doesn't take a genius to know that if you are trying to keep up with the Joneses or spend money without money that you don't even have, it's going to come back and land on your head, and it's not going to make for a possible savings for you. It's going to be a problem down the pike. That is a given. Always live within your means. And if you can't, you have to make more income. We could focus on that in a few days, more income earning ways. Okay, great. Next, lack of understanding of personal financials. Believe it or not, it doesn't surprise me, because think of it this way: not everybody was raised with parents that openly discussed money or anything, or even had the knowledge. I get that. But what I also would appreciate is if more schools would take age appropriate steps to teach our children from a very early age about how financials work, even in the most simplistic ways. I think somewhere along the pike it needs to get started. But having said that, lack of personal financial knowledge is definitely a hindrance to savings. Next, you don't or refuse to have a budget or a spending plan. You figure, I'll just wing it. Why do I need to sit down with a trusty notebook on a rainy afternoon or whatever time I have peacefully and figure out a spending plan? Or you think that your financials are so simple and you have this thing covered under your belt. That, I think, is a big reason, because some people only have minor bills to pay every month. They're not necessarily tracking their expenditures, the little stuff. It's the little stuff that can get in the way. That's why it is important. If you feel that you want to save and you want to create goals and achieve those goals, you have to take the necessary steps. One of the most necessary steps is to know your budget. But my income is the same every month. True. Some people do live on fixed incomes, some don't. But guess what? Monthly expenses change. Some months are more expensive than others. Think about, I always use this as an example. Think about the expenses some may have during the holidays, for example, like December. Those monthly expenses may be way different than, let's say, a much quieter month, like, let's say, March. Or you may be bombarded with birthdays or whatever. Months change. Examine your budget monthly. Create one first. Next, some cannot distinguish a want from a need. Oh, this is huge. But I need that whatever thingy, whatever fancy thingy, even though you have a not so fancy thing to work with, let's say an electronic, that's doing just fine. But for whatever the reason, it's sort of like when you're young, really young, you want that toy. I want that toy. I want that toy. I want that toy. Remember whining and crying for toys when you were a little kid? Well, guess what? You're not a kid anymore. It's time to grow up and distinguish a want from a need. I know that sounds a little harsh, but you know I mean well. You do know that. The thing is this: we really have to distinguish wants from needs. We've all gone through it, including yours truly. But I want that $50 carousel that just sits there and collects dust and does absolutely nothing. Yeah, so cute. I really did want something like that a while back. I ended up not getting that carousel because it was actually more important for me to pay the light bill. I'm glad I did pay the light bill. Electricity is a nice thing to have. Credit card debt. Some people think credit card debt is a way of life, like it's just normal to constantly live in debt. Not when you don't have the means that you can't even save. You can't even save for a basic emergency fund, the $1,000 to $2,000 emergency fund. If you can't even save for that much and you think credit card use is a way of life and it's totally okay, I don't know about that. because you're always playing catch up with paying your creditor back. How can you wiggle enough money for savings? You really probably can't, or you struggle with it. That could be a problem. So, credit card debt is not a normal way of life at all times. No, far from it. Student loan debt or any other kind of debt, not good. Any kind of debt holds you back from being able to save. We'll talk about a couple of steps we could do to fix some of this, but I'm not finished with the points yet. You are not prepared for an emergency or an unexpected expenses. Life happens. Life happens to the best of us. I actually hear people whine, moan, and complain about paying for emergency things that come up, but they have the funds and they're still complaining. They just don't feel like parting with their funds. Imagine a person that does not have the funds. Then what? What do they end up doing? Running to plastic, if they still have good credit, that is. Your emergency fund is not your credit card. Please do not confuse the two. Your credit card should be used as a short term loan that you are able to pay back immediately. Short term loan. That is not your emergency fund. Never forget that. You need to create a separate emergency fund. What if your refrigerator or car breaks down? What if you have an unexpected dental expense? You don't have dental insurance or it's not covered, whatever. Whatever comes up, or your glasses break, you need to have some sort of a backup plan. You need to have a plan B. Credit card is not your emergency fund. It's just not. That's its own video. I think one day I'll do that. Card payments. Card payments can be like from the sublime to the ridiculous. Some people pay as much as like multiple hundreds, maybe $500-600 a month on a car payment. Can you imagine if you didn't have that car payment, how much money you could be socking away into your bank account or using it for vacations or whatever? Just saying, just saying. So if you could work around that and maybe lower the bar a little bit, not having to have the fanciest, new thing going on, and just like work with a good quality pre-owned car and save a lot and pay for it outright. Goodbye car payment. That burden is off your head. Isn't it nice to have those burdens off of your head? Even just mentally, forget about the savings. Just saying, just saying. Some people are still living in too much house, could be another problem. Maybe at some point having the bigger house was great when there were a lot of people living in it. But kids grow up, they move out, they leave the nest. Ask yourself and your spouse, or if you're just left alone, do you personally really need to upkeep that big house if you're living alone? Ask yourself that. Maybe you could find a way to get a smaller living space and lower your expenses. That is huge. Talk about savings quickly. That will add up in a hurry. Well, I felt that these points were very important to go over, and I did want to share, because my goal here, my channel's mission, is to motivate folks to save. Remember that video about how $100 a month can actually change your life? I stand for that, and I always will. Can you find a way to save just $25 this week? Let me know in 1 week if you did so. I'd be thrilled to hear it. In the meantime, this has been Jan from New York City. Thank you so much for viewing. Why? Because I really do appreciate who? You. Don't forget to come back in the future for some more tips. I look forward to seeing you again when? Real soon. Have an amazing, fantastic day. Bye-bye.